Kyle Brandt, co-host of NFL Network's Good Morning Football, and he's got a new podcast. And his first guest with his podcast was Aaron Rodgers. The new podcast, 10 Questions with Kyle Brandt, now available on Spotify, YouTube, and Aaron Rodgers. And they created some headlines a couple of weeks ago when some of the excerpts leaked out, or they had them leak out, and Kyle joins us now on the program. Congrats on the podcast there. Nice get, the first guest there, Kyle.
Thanks, Dan. I'm thrilled to be here. And if you're starting a podcast, you better have a banger first track on that album or somebody's going to the other one. It's tough out there in the podcast streets. A lot of traffic. So Rodgers did me a huge solid, man.
Now, sources close to me tell me that Aaron Rodgers was drinking scotch throughout the 2-hour interview on your podcast. Is it mandatory that every guest will be drinking to answer your questions?
Absolutely. They have to sign something that says not only will they drink, Dan, they will drink heartily. I did this on a Friday night. It was in the evening. I mean, this is like 8 or 9 o'clock. It's just when he could do it. And he sits down and he's got a massive glass of scotch. And we talked for almost 2 hours, Dan. He pulled from the scotch throughout, up through high wire act questions, difficult topics. You could almost play a drinking game, just drink every time Rodgers drinks. And it's ironic because he's the one who got his chops busted because he couldn't chug a beer. And everyone said, ha, you can't chug a beer. This guy can put it back like Daniel Day-Lewis and There Will Be Blood. It was so much whiskey, and still he was so erudite and open. It was a dream shot.
What's the most honest or revealing moment you had?
Well, a couple. In a long talk, there was a couple. On the surface level, Dan, I was shocked to find out that Aaron Rodgers is a massive karaoke guy, and his go-to song is an 80s power ballad by the Scorpions called Wind of Change, which is about socioeconomic politics in the Soviet Union. It's a heavy jam, but he goes to that routinely and apparently has karaoke parties in Green Bay after games.
Okay. Now, what was the revealing moment that, like, was there something, because we know what's happened in the offseason here when he found out they were taking Jordan Love.
Yeah. The most revealing moment, I think this what's really was startling about it, Dan, was just there was such certainty in the way he spoke about the end of his times in Green Bay. He knows for a fact that clear as day that he will one day play an NFL game without a Green Bay Packers uniform because he doesn't want to stop playing. He wants to play well into his 40s. I'm talking another 5, 6, 7 seasons. And there was no frustration, no anger, almost a touch of sadness. But when you talk about how's this thing going to end, he just says, well, they're going to go with the kid. They're going to go with Jordan Love. I know that for a fact. And it's not as if he spent the summer wrestling with it after the pick. I think he just is so calm. And I was expecting some frustration, especially as the scotch kicked in. But no, it just calm certainty, as if someone who knows what their fate is and they're just going to ride it out.
He's Kyle Brandt, co-host of NFL Network's Good Morning Football. 10 Questions with Kyle Brandt, his podcast now available on Spotify and YouTube. I wanted to bring this up and play it for you, play it for the audience. Okay. And it's a little bit lengthy, but it has to do with Aaron Rodgers' view, his take on the media. So this is part of the podcast.
What I, laugh at, do not spend any time watching, but unfortunately, it's usually like ESPN's on here and, the network's on over there, kind of in our cafeteria. It's just like 4 guys, 4 men or 4 women, whoever it shakes out. And everybody's just trying to say the most outlandish thing possible to get the most clickbait. And I've said it many times about clickbait. My problem with putting ridiculous headlines on the stories is that in this culture where the attention span is so short for so many people, even people probably listen to this interview or watching this who, can't stay on the entire time because they got other things to do and other things looking at their phone. It's like all they're going to read is 8 words on an ESPN front page. And they think that's going to, that's what these people are trying to get people to click on, because if they get a 1 second page, 1 second on that page, that counts as the page view. And the more page views you get, the more ad revenue you get. And I think it's really low class journalism. It's like some of the headlines that get put on some of these articles that have nothing to do with what's actually content wise in the article. I think it's poor journalism. I think it's a total lack of integrity. And I don't want to listen. I don't want to look at that. I don't want to listen to 4 people, on some show yelling at each other about opinions. Do they really feel that way? Is that like, are they just trying to be the most outlandish, opinion possible, so they get the most views when it gets, retweeted on Twitter or posted on a 10-second blurb on ESPN.com or something. I just think it's really done a disservice to the industry of journalism, for sure.
So what'd you make of that?
Very surprised. The question was just, hey, Aaron, you watch a lot of football TV. What's your least favorite kind? What's the little pet peeve you had? And I thought he was going to go to X's and O's, because I know he's spoken before about analysts doing X's and O's drives him crazy because they always have it wrong. And we'd have some laughs. But he took a deep breath. He kind of loosened his neck up, and then he let it rip. And it goes on. And we talk about some of the debate shows and ESPN shows. And I mentioned Stephen A. by name. And there's an inference of the Bayless types and whatnot. And he uses words like sellout, and he uses words like integrity. And he was really, really, really pissed about that whole thing. And I was surprised by it. But I think there's a lot of scar tissue there. That seemed to me like one of these things, just let it all out after years and years and years. There's a couple other things, Dan. If you pay attention to him really closely, I know you've spoken to him a bunch. I can't put words in his mouth, but there seems to be some problem with ESPN as a whole. There's another part in our conversation where he was talking about the summer of 2008, which was a huge summer for him because it was the far vacillating between retiring and is it going to be Aaron or not. And he said he was in Tahoe playing in the golf tournament. And he just, as a throwaway comment, he says, I did the Sunday Conversation because they tricked me into that. And I followed on it, and he kind of didn't want to get into it anymore. But there seems to be an ESPN issue. Again, I can't speak for him, but in 2 hours of talking, I think it was his most passionate, vein in the neck bulging type rant. And I think there's more where that came from.
Just so you know, full disclosure, I verbally spanked you a couple of weeks ago when you sent out a tweet about people in the industry maybe rooting against the football season. So I wanted to give you that opportunity to maybe clarify, or maybe it was semantics, or maybe you didn't understand how people were going to take that. But you kind of said, I'm not quoting verbatim, but there are people in the industry who are rooting against the football season to start, right? And I told you so.
Yeah, I think it was. It almost feels like certain people in the football industry are rooting for the season to be affected.
Yeah.
And I've been asked, do I regret tweeting that? And Dan, for people who you were listening who don't know me, I'm not a provocateur. I don't lob grenades on Twitter. I don't say things. I don't incite. It's just not how I make my living. So sure, I regret it just because there were some people who were really insulted by it, and there are people who I respect, and even more importantly, people that I like that were insulted by it. And it sounds like maybe I'm talking to one, but at the same time, the reason why the tweet resonated and the reason why it's interesting isn't just because I made a stupid tweet and pissed people off. It's because in addition to all the people who were mad about it, there were thousands and thousands and thousands of likes. It seemed to tap into something that people also felt, which was very strange.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, Dan, if I could go back, I wouldn't tweet it because I'm not in the business of just pissing people off, but I also didn't take it down, because I do think that there is a thread of truth to what I tweeted.
Yeah, and look, it didn't ruin my day. I just, my point is that it makes my job easier when there is the NFL. It makes my job easier. People accused me on Monday when I had the story, college football is closing up shop in the Big Ten and Pac-12. People said, oh, you're getting your wish. My job has been so much tougher the last 4 months. Now we have sports. I can't imagine not having football in the fall, certainly with the NFL. So it didn't ruin my day. I felt bad for you because I understood what you were saying. I just don't know if you knew how people are going to consume it in the industry.
I think you're probably right. And listen, I make my living off football every morning too. I've taken a pay cut already. I may take another. And of course, Dan, the columnist and the radio host and the NFL lifer, of course, they're not rooting for the season to be affected at all. But it was the end of the show. It was a long show. It was a tedious show. And the Miami Marlins news started coming down. And I just got kind of depressed. I didn't like it. I felt bad. I felt down on myself. And you go to Twitter, which is the worst decision possible. And I got pissed off by some of the tone that I was reading. It's just, listen, all of you, me, of course we're rooting for this season. I think, though, there is a small yet pungent minority who are rooting for the NFL to be humbled.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I was responding to.
Yes. And I think that, we've heard that with baseball. Anytime I bring news that's negative news, I get people who say, oh, you might be getting your wish. I'm not.
I know.
I'm. My wish is that we have sports. That's all. Like you're blaming the pizza guy, the delivery guy, if the pizza's bad. I didn't make it. I'm just delivering it to you. Sources close to me tell me that you have a couple of questions for me. You're going to turn the tables, Kyle. Is that what you're going to do?
All right. Well, Dan, this is my chance to
Paulie,
give you a
you got some scotch?
You already had some.
Oh, I got some tequila.
All right. So the deal is, Dan, with the new show, I had to do something different. I can't just sit down and have a guest on and ask a couple of questions. I don't have the platform or maybe the talent. So I asked Rogers, and I've asked Paul Rudd and Tyrann Mathieu and Kirk Cousins. You asked them a trivia question. Could be totally random.
Okay.
If they get it, they get a point. If they don't, they get nothing. And then we reveal how it's attached to their life. So would you be willing to indulge in 2 questions?
Sure.
You're in.
Sure, why not?
All right, here we go. Dan Patrick, question number 1. Your category is breakfast.
Okay.
Dan, what sugary breakfast cereal is infamous for cutting the roof of your mouth when you eat it?
Captain Crunch always did that for me.
Captain Crunch is right. Dan Patrick, that is right.
Thank you.
It is Captain Crunch,
I
a
love it.
Navy man. And the reason I'm asking you about Captain Crunch, Dan, is that you have a history with a different captain, a very infamous one by the name of Captain Jenks.
Yes.
And you and I have joked about this off the air, but I never got to ask you about it. You were interviewing a farcical Steve Bartman on SportsCenter when Howard Stern prankster Captain Jenks got you on live TV. Incredible moment. When you look back on that, Dan, do you shake your head or do you laugh?
I laugh because there was nothing. I love Captain Jenks and Howard Stern, so part of me is like, damn, I'm going to be on Howard Stern's show. But the other part of me is, holy bleep, I'm live on SportsCenter, and I got humbled. I won an FME by Howard and Robin. So part of me was very proud that I screwed up to get on Howard's show. The other part was I'm live on SportsCenter, and that's not Steve Bartman I'm talking to.
Dan, I say this with due respect. I've watched you for decades. It's one of my favorite moments of your broadcasting
Thank
career.
you.
Because the reaction when he says, "Do you like Howard Stern's bleep cheese?"
Yeah.
You take a deep breath, you look down, and then you look at the camera and say, "We've been had."
Yeah.
That was not Steve Bartman. And then listen up. Coming up, we'll play Fact or Fiction, and Warren Sapp has gone from hunter to the hunted. More SportsCenter after this. The recovery was incredible to that left hook.
Oh, I'm sweating as we speak with you retelling that. Any other
All right,
questions?
so you're 1 for 1.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Question number 2.
Okay.
Let's see if we can stay hot, Dan Patrick.
Okay.
No
Okay.
help from the Danettes, please.
Okay.
Your category is cinema. What actress was nominated for an Academy Award for her role in the film Casino?
Sharon Stone.
Patrick's on fire. Ding! 2 for 2.
I'm in
It was Sharon
fuego.
Stone.
Yeah, I'm as hot as
I'm
the fake
fuego.
fireplace behind you there, Kyle. That
You
is.
started that fireplace.
It
I'm
almost
the big,
almost looked real. It almost looks real.
it's the fire from my takes, Dan. You know that's what you got to have these
yeah.
days. the hot take.
Yeah.
You said Sharon Stone, the connective tissue to you there. Stone, I also think of Stone Cold Steve Austin. One of my favorite SportsCenter commercials is when you hit him with a steel chair. What are your memories of hitting Stone Cold with a chair?
Well, he told me to do it harder. And he put this little pad on the middle of his back. And he had back issues. And so the whole premise was he's there studying in our break room. I come in, I'm doing late night SportsCenter. And he's got to stretch a little bit. And he goes, "Can you help me here, Dan?" And I grab this metal chair that I still have. It's in the studio somewhere. And I hit him. And the paper on the wall, bulletin board was like, whoosh. And he goes, "You got to make it real. You got to hit me harder." And I go, "Okay." After the 4th time, I was like, "All right, I'm bringing all the cheese I got." And I hit him so damn hard, and he didn't budge. And he just thanked me that I hit this little pad on his back because I couldn't imagine. If I missed, I would have broke something on him.
The last one, you crow hopped and did a full a Vlad Guerrero throw from the warning track.
Yeah.
Dan, my last follow-up is, when it came to the This is SportsCenter commercials and the casting, did it get really competitive amongst anchors, and were their feelings hurt?
Yeah, there were people who didn't want to be part of it. I remember Bob Lee and some other anchors, they were above it. I will say that if there was a commercial shoot, a promo shoot, Stuart Scott would have been first in line to be there no matter what. Stuart was always, if you needed a SportsCenter anchor, Stuart Scott was there. We did have people who were lobbying for certain commercials with certain sports stars. And then we had like Gordie Howe was going to be with Oberman. Lance Armstrong was going to be with me. Some athletes ask for certain anchors to be in their promos, but competitive, yeah, a little bit. But you know what? That changed SportsCenter. That ad campaign was one of the great ones in history. But I've got to go. I can't just sit here. It's not a 2-hour podcast where I can just drink scotch. But congratulations on. It's great to talk to you and give my best to Good Morning America. Good morning, Football America. Good morning, America football.
I will do that, Dan. You can spank me anytime.
That's Kyle Brandt. He's the popular co-host of NFL Network's Good Morning Football and 10 Questions with Kyle Brandt. Now available on Spotify and YouTube.